Well, speaking of small countries,
Yeah.
is Vuk Jeremic right
Mhm.
when he says, okay,
Mhm.
if there's a trade war between China and America, emotionally we'll be on your side, but economically we may end up dead?
No, it depends on how you look at this particular country's relations with China. For instance, if we would look at the figures of global trade, China now is the world's largest trading nation. And China is also the largest trading partner for over 140 countries. Most of them are small countries. So I told the Xiang Sport the other day before I came to Serbia, I said if Donald Trump decided to withdraw from globalization, so be it. We are the largest trading partner for over 140 countries. We can continue with globalization, new style, based on the Chinese idea of discussing together, building together, benefiting together, and BRI.
Okay, two questions on this. You are aware that when Western leaders come here, they tell us, you need to sit only on one chair. You cannot try to sit on the Russian chair, the Chinese chair, the European chair. You have to choose one Western liberal democracy chair. And then they say, because Russian influence is malign, Chinese influence is malign, only we are benign and only we wish you well. Now that pretty clearly is not true, but how do you respond to this benign malign paradigm?
Well, I said, take China-Serbian relations as an example. This relationship goes way beyond the current status of relations, because China and Yugoslavia developed very good relations. And I myself came to Yugoslavia in 1986. We discussed with Yugoslavian leaders about how to promote trade, technological cooperation.
That's 86?
1986, so almost 4 decades ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and so these are two separate matters. This EU-Serbian relation, that's one. And China-Serbian relations, that's another one. Same with Serbian-Russia relations. They have their own logic, which no other country should try to influence. So this is the right approach. Furthermore, I think, given my knowledge of the EU, I think the more Serbia develop good relations with Russia, with China, and with other countries, and the EU will think more about we should try our best to develop good ties with Serbia.
Well, that's clearly
my logic. Yeah.
That's clearly also what the government here is doing. But let me ask you, in 1986, what did you think of Yugoslavia? Was it developed? Did it look good? And did it look like a disintegrating country, or a country that was going to disintegrate in 4 years?
In retrospect, Yugoslavia was in very serious crisis. It's over decentralized, and price is out of control. Yet, as we all know, Yugoslavia was by then a relatively more developed economy in the socialist bloc. And so, indeed, when I came here, we flew from Romania, from Bucharest to Belgrade. We were deeply impressed. And indeed...
Deeply impressed vis-a-vis Romania, or deeply
both.
Impressed vis-a-vis China?
Both. Romania and China.
Only in 86?
1986. For the first time, I myself, saw this kind of five-star hotels, supermarket.
There were none in that time at China?
No. At that time, Belgrade was more developed than Beijing. And we also went to the largest department store to see their economic reform at grassroots. It's called the shareholding system. So shop assistants can own certain share of that particular department store. So these were all eye-opening for us. But we also realize their kind of economic political reform have gone a bit too far. And as a result, the economy was almost out of control. At the same time, they did not allow the real so-called very concept market economy to play. But on the whole, at the personal level, we were impressed with its already level of development. But theoretically, we know it's also in trouble. Yeah.
Okay, so you say in '86, it was an eye-opener because you could also see what was going on. But do you realize how depressing this sounds to me to hear you say this?
That's true.
Okay, so tell me about the perception of Serbia in China. How relevant is the bombing of the Chinese embassy in Belgrade in 1999 to today's population of China?
Well,
how many people even know about it?
Indeed, the Chinese have a long memory.
But the strategic patience too.
As well. And people, for instance, not only my generation, the young generation, they've either seen many Yugoslavian movies, and they can sing Yugoslavian songs, and especially this Valde defends Sarajevo. It's very popular in China at that time. Its music still can you can hear them, in China. So this kind of soft power from the time of Yugoslavia still had influence among the Chinese young generation. And the Chinese Z generation is very strongly in favor of socialism. This is something very unique. So like everything about Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, if you look at the Bilibili, the largest app for young people, and have all kinds of discussions about Yugoslavia, about Soviet Union, about leaders of Tito, Lenin, Stalin, and more. Yeah. So I think today why China-Serbian relations are so solid, for one thing, it has a very strong and popular support among the Chinese public. It's also among the people here. Yeah.
So it is still relevant and it still resonates with the Z generation.
Yeah.
The bombing, not just Walter Brani Sarajevo.
For the bomb itself, for sure. That was a kind of a wake-up call, For many years under China's economic reform in the 1980s, 1990s, Chinese leaders and governments said we should focus more on economic development rather than defense spending. So we give top priority to improving people's living standards and improving the economy performance. But this particular bombing was a wake-up call. That was the time of Jiang Zemin as Chinese president and general secretary of the party. And he began to talk about we should have powerful military. So we began to
At about that time?
Yes, roughly. Began to invest heavily in defense, in scientific research for new type of defensive systems. So now this policy is paying off. So it's again a result of over 20 years of continuous, serious effort committed with long-term planning and long-termism. You may know that in December last year, China tested its first hypersonic 6th generation jets, which the United States did not have. Yeah.
Was it a terrible national humiliation to hear of that bombing?
Of course, it's a humiliation, and people remember that. And of course, U.S. leader at that time, including Bill Clinton, made a formal sorry or apology or whatever. Still, people think this is a serious humiliation for China. That will never happen again.
It seemed a very insincere apology because they said, we apologize, we didn't mean to. On the other hand, the journalists were killed. they were really spies. So,
well, indeed, we look at this as a whole part of the sad story, and we think, as with the West in general, this kind of, you may call arrogance or you may call stupidity, always there. So we treat them as it is. If you look at the latest China retaliation against Donald Trump's tariff,
tell me about that
severe
retaliation.
yeah.
Now tell me,
Yeah,
how did
basically, Donald Trump
play?
said, let's have a 10% increase of tariff. And China said, let's have a 10 to 15% increase of our tariff against U.S. goods.
And
it's coming.
the 10
Furthermore, China.
What is coming? Your tariffs are
If
coming.
you look at the latest announcement, not only tariff, but also very strict banning of rare metal to exporting to the United States. So this kind of control, this kind of banning, this kind of counter sanctions take effect. They will affect, and they are affecting American military in equipment, defense industry, in each and every field of the United States, because they are the supply, the raw material for new weapons.